Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about width measurement, but this is more like an advanced width measurement application. One of the things that you're going to see in the industry is that different people provide width measurement based on the edge position. There are certain applications where you would need to measure the width of the web, not based on the edge of the web, but some contrasting feature on the web. For example, if you have a lamination or embossing application where you have multiple layers of web and the web goes through some heating and cooling, different layers of the web may contract or expand, and this might change the width of the web. And if you're just looking at the edge of the web, that may not be representative of the width change that is experienced by a feature on the web. With roll-to-roll, our sensors not only can detect the edge of the web, but it can also detect some contrasting features on the web, and we'll take advantage of that. And with that, we can also look at width of that contrasting feature. So we have a setup here where we're looking at a sample in the bottom right there, and then we have one of our white light sensors, the ODC48 white light sensors installed there, and it's looking at that sample. And this is just to simulate how we would do a contrasting feature measurement application where the web is stabilized either on a backup roller or really close to a roller so that the plane of the web doesn't change, and that's what that is simulating. And then we have a controller here, and the controller is actually set for contrast mode. You can go in and you can see that it's set for contrast mode, and then it's also set to provide the width as an output, and we'll see how that we can set it up to provide the width output. Even though we have two sensors connected, we have disabled one of the sensors. We're only looking at one sensor, and this particular sensor is sensor 2, and it's set for contrast mode. What we are going to do is we're going to measure the width of this contrasting feature right there. It's hard to see in this image, but there is a gray region, a black region, and another little bit brighter gray region here. As a first step, we're going to teach the controller for the feature that we want to. This is very similar to tracking. So if you want to track this feature, you're going to do the same thing. Press this button to unlock the teaching mode, and depending upon whatever feature that you want to pick, you can scroll through it. In this case, we want to pick this black feature right there. We have selected it. The contrast mode that we have, this is the line mode, so we have detected that, and then lock in on it. And if we go to the home screen, you're going to see the contrast. The middle of the contrast representing the contrast is chosen as in line mode, and then it's also showing the width of that feature. So if I move my sensor back, and you should be able to see that the width changed a little bit, but it also keeps track of the position. One of the things with this particular mode or line mode is that in order to lock on this contrast, there are two conditions that needs to be met. One of them is the width of the contrast, and the other one is the color of the contrast or the brightness of the. And this is intended to make sure that we don't jump from one to another contrast. And if you are measuring the width with this particular feature, then whenever the width changes too much or the color changes too much, you're going to have the measurement, you're going to have no measurement. What I mean by that is if I go in here and then pick the next line, this is still a black line, but you can see that the width went to 0, even though there is a black line that you see here, and that's because of it lost that contrast. Measuring the width of the web based on this contrasting feature is restrictive in line mode. However, we can go in and measure the contrast width in other modes. For example, if you want to look at this particular width, so this is the width of this region that you want to measure, you can select that, teach it, and go to the home screen, and that's showing you the width of that region. And if we reduce that width, you can see that this region is 0.68 inches, and then if we move further and further, that region increases, and it'll go all the way up to, you see, any other black region. And now this is the measurement of the width, the contrasting feature width. And if we move any further, the width is not going to change because it's bound by from this region to this region. So we can not only measure the edge of the width based on the edge, we can measure the width based on any of the contrasting feature in the web. So this is with one sensor how we do it. Some examples of applications is to measure the width of a die cut edge of a label to the edge of the web. This is important in slitting. Certain slitting applications require the edge of the web to be at a certain distance from the die cut edge of a label, or edge of the web to be at a certain distance from the edge of a printed mark on the web. Other applications are to measure the coding width in any type of coding, or glue width, or any of those kind of things. Lithium ion battery trim width measurement or tab width measurement are some other examples of this application where you want to measure the width of a contrasting feature. The outputs that we provide is going to be very similar to the edge outputs. So in this case, we are using a 48 millimeter sensor, and then this value is, or we are using about 2-inch wide sensor, and this value is about 0.68 inches. So the output, if it's an analog, it's going to be proportional to the width of the sensor. And again, you can also get this output through the Ethernet, and if we look at that on our web browser, we should also see the same output. So again, if we look at the output on our web browser, it shows 0.685 inches, and if I move the sensor and the width changes, it updates that value. Again, you can do it in millimeters if you want. That's 21.7 millimeters, or in inches, it's 0.855 millimeters. Okay, so that's a quick overview on width measurement based on a contrasting feature on the web with just a single sensor. In the next video, or in the subsequent video, we will take a look at how we can do width measurement with two sensors based on the contrasting feature on the web.